Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenna if you're new here. Today I want to do a video talking about home birth. And so we have our coffee. We are gearing up for this conversation to talk about some childbirth today. This video is actually one that I wish that I would have had before having my own home birth. So this is kind of a advice to my past self video. So I hope that this helps anyone else who is planning on having either a home birth or an unmedicated natural birth. These are some things that I wish someone would have just told me beforehand. And I am someone who has been very exposed to home birth and natural birth essentially my entire life. I grew up hearing the story of my own birth, which actually ended up being a free birth. So my parents had me at home and my midwife was not there when I was born. She was on her way, so it wasn't on purpose as a free birth, but she was on her way, but I came too fast and I was my mom's second baby. So it is definitely true what they say, where the second baby comes super fast. So I just had my baby boy, Henri Leo, at home, and it went very well, all things considered. He was a very healthy birth. It was a pretty seamless labor, although it was a long one. It progressed naturally, it progressed well. He was always in a good position. He was never in distress. So my entire home birth story on the outside was, textbook, picture perfect, what you want from a home birth. There was no risk factors going into it. There was nothing to cause alarm during the home birth itself. It was not something I felt like I was totally mentally prepared for, even though it was something I had thought about doing my entire life. It was something that was always in the back of my brain as I think I'm going to do this. I want to get into 5 different things that I wish that someone would have told me before having my own birth, because I hope that subsequent births will be a little bit more peaceful, and I can even use the word empowering in the future. So the first thing, number 1, that I wish someone would have told me for my first labor experience is that labor will probably last a lot longer than what you're thinking. And some people may have already been prepared for this. I myself was not necessarily prepared for this. So I had experienced my sister's birth. She went into labor the night before around 6 or 7 p.m. and then she gave birth to her daughter at 7 a.m. So around 12 hours for her first birth. So that was my only firsthand experience with a birth, because I was attending her birth. I was there when my niece was born and she had a home birth as well. So I was just thinking, okay, some people it takes longer, some people it takes faster. I'll see what the timing is for my own body. But you have to be prepared, I'd say, as a first-time mom, as a first-time parent, to be going through labor, to be experiencing contractions for a first baby for at least 24 hours. Now, to really understand what that feels like, try to pull an all-nighter for 24 hours and just stay encouraged and happy and strong, just not getting sleep, because that is just the little tip of the iceberg of what you're experiencing. So you're not getting sleep for at least 24 hours. At least that was my experience. And I think if you're mentally preparing for a very long labor and yours happens to be shorter than that, then you're only going to set yourself up for success. Now I ended up having a 27-hour labor. So I remember when I hit the 24-hour mark, and my husband or my mom, someone said, "Oh, Jenna, you've been doing this for 24 hours. Good job," or something as an encouragement. And I was like, please don't call attention to the fact that I've been doing this for 24 hours. Now, the second thing I wish someone would have prepared me for is that labor is going to completely differ based on how you experience pain. So I had seen so many different labor and birth videos and vlogs, and I think the harm of that is a lot of them are largely romanticized. So it is made to look very peaceful, and perhaps that is how that person experienced their labor, but it is made to look very peaceful and calm and quiet, and usually there's an internalization that's happening. I didn't see a single thing to really prepare me for the fact that Sometimes labor is messy and it isn't cute and it isn't romantic looking and it isn't calm and it isn't peaceful. And it isn't quite, I would say, kind of the Hollywood depiction of, the screeching and screaming and all of that. I feel like there is an overly dramatic portrayal and then there is a way too peaceful portrayal, whereas there needs to be some kind of thing in the middle. And so I ended up being a very vocal laborer, and that kind of caught me off guard because I had pictured, okay, labor is going to be this thing where I'm going to go into my body and I'm going to internalize and I'm going to be here. That is not how I experience pain, or discomfort. And so I wish that I would have kind of figured that out about myself before going into labor. A lot of people internalize, a lot of people go into themselves in order to manage those feelings, but a lot of people also externalize, and the externalization is completely okay. If you need to make noises, if you need to scream, if you need to shout, if you need to breathe heavy and loudly, I feel like that I wasn't necessarily prepared for how I would need to use those things personally. The third thing that I wish someone would have told me before going into my own labor experience is that it is going to hurt. And this obviously seems like a well, duh, but when you have grown up with experiences of home births and also when you have been exposed to so many different stories, I feel like women, they will experience birth and then time will separate them from their birth experience, and then it won't seem as intense as when they were going through it when they're retelling it back, if that makes sense. So usually people will say things and even use language of, oh, it's not pain, we need to stop using the word pain, it's discomfort, and you're feeling sensations and you're feeling waves of pain. And so that's all the language that's surrounding birth. And so hearing these things like, okay, so there's going to be waves, there's going to be sensations, there's going to be discomfort. It felt more like I was being prepared for running a marathon maybe, which I mean, in a lot of ways, I guess it could correlate to that. But I wasn't preparing for the fact that it would be painful because all of these words were being used instead. And I think it is good for a lot of people. It is powerful to reframe and to use those words to reframe. But I think that there needs to be a cautiousness around this, especially when it comes to kind of the rise in people going towards natural birth or unmedicated or home births, that yes, you can do it. Yes, it is possible, but it is not just going to be a powerful sensation. I think that language can be really helpful when going into a second or a third birth because you know how it feels. So now you're reframing. But for that to be the initial language of someone who has never experienced birth is a little bit too tame of a descriptor. So there needs to be a middle ground to not be afraid of birth and to also not to downplay it. The fourth thing is that panic will happen. It doesn't mean that it necessarily will happen for every person, but very likely panic at some point will happen, and it might last longer than you think. So I did know that the state of transition right before baby comes is when every woman thinks or says, I truly can't do this anymore, and then baby is almost there. When you're saying those things, baby is almost there. When you say that baby is almost there from a removed perspective, looking back on the birth, you can say, oh yes, I was saying that, and I really didn't have that much longer to go. Baby was born in about 2 to 3 more hours. But that was my case, is I actually said the words to my husband, I feel like I am at the end of my rope. I can't do this anymore. I have used up everything that I have. How am I going to keep doing this? And my husband said he marked the time that I said that, and it was 2 a.m. And I actually gave birth to my son at 5 a.m. So when I pictured saying those words of, okay, you're almost there, when you're saying that, you're kind of thinking, okay, I don't know, within the hour, baby is coming, but you don't realize that that intensity is probably going to be a pretty decent chunk of time that you are panicking for. There might be a chunk of time where you feel like you can't do it anymore. There might be multiple times where you say that, multiple contractions where you feel that. But I think that's important when preparing for it, is that for someone who's never experienced labor before, is that transition, that experience of transition will be a short phase of labor when looking at labor as a whole. when you're in it, it's not going to feel short. Like when you are going through the hardest thing your body has ever gone through, doing that for 2 to 3 hours, it feels when you're in it like an eternity. And the last thing is that your team, your birth team, will completely define your experience. They truly, truly will. So whether you are giving birth at home or in a hospital or in a birthing center, the people who are around you will define your experience. So whether those people are speaking encouraging things or fearful things, whether that person is giving you good advice or unhelpful advice. So your care providers, your team, whoever you decide to have on your birth team, shouldn't be a decision that is, taken lightly, because I truly believe if I did not have my husband, my mom, my midwife, those specific people there with me, I wouldn't have had the birth that I did. I wouldn't have successfully had a home birth because of their strength, because of how they believed in me, because they knew me better than anyone else. I mean, my midwife, maybe not necessarily. She has seen so much in her experience. So although she didn't know me, she knows birth intimately. But my mom and my husband know me intimately. They know what I can take. They know what I can handle. They know what I need. They knew how to encourage me, what to say to me. My birth experience was possible because I felt comfortable being vulnerable. So that is the gist of it. I do hope and actually do plan on having home births in the future, as crazy as it sounds. Reason being is because even though it took everything that I had, even though it was the hardest thing that I have ever done, I would still do it over again, because I knew while it was happening that it was still a healthy experience that I was going through. Even though it was difficult, I knew that I was working with my body. I knew that my body was doing it and knew what to do. My body knew what to do. I didn't have to do anything other than ride along with it. You are kind of at the mercy of the situation when birth is happening. I knew that it was a healthy thing for baby. It was a healthy thing for me. Baby was completely fine. He had a great birth experience. Henri loved birth, but he just didn't realize how much mama didn't. I definitely would do it again, although I would put a lot of emphasis on mental preparation. I hope that this video was somewhat helpful for you if you are going through a first birth experience. This is your encouragement and your kind warning to know that birth is going to be the most intense thing that you will ever do. But know that you can do it. I wish you all of the best luck and love and blessings, and I will be praying for your birth experience. But thank you again so much for watching this video, and I cannot wait to catch you on the next one.